In the heart of Africa, long before the roars of Mufasa and Scar echoed across the Pride lands, a lone mandrill named Rafiki journeyed. He wasn't the wise, slightly eccentric mystic we know. He was just Rafiki, a traveler with a curious spirit and a past he carried quietly in the lines on his face. He came from a land far away, a place where his family was respected for their knowledge of the natural world. But a great fire, a tragic event that swept through their homeland, left him orphaned and wandering. He carried with him only a gourd, a gift from his grandmother, and the fragmented memories of ancient remedies and stargazing traditions. His journey was one of survival, but also one of searching. He was looking for a purpose, a place where his inherited wisdom could take root and blossom. As he traveled, Rafiki learned to listen, not just to the calls of birds or the rustle of leaves, but to the very heartbeat of the land. He discovered that every plant had a story, every gust of wind carried a message. He wasn't born with powers in the magical sense. His abilities grew from deep observation, empathy, and an understanding of the delicate balance of life. He learned to read the future, not in a crystal ball, but in the patterns of migrating herds and the color of the evening sky. He could soothe a frightened gazelle with a gentle touch and a soft hum, not through magic, but through an intuitive connection to all living things. His staff was just a sturdy walking stick he found, but over time it became an extension of himself, a tool for gathering herbs and a symbol of his long, winding path. The Pride lands were not his destination, but a chance encounter changed his destiny forever. He stumbled upon a young, boisterous lion cub with a tuft of red hair, chased by a swarm of angry bees. This was Ahadi, the future king and father of Mufasa and Taka. Rafiki, using his knowledge of plants, quickly created a soothing balm from a nearby aloe plant to ease the cub's stings. Ahadi's father, King Mohatu, was immensely grateful. He saw in Rafiki not just a healer, but a soul who understood the circle of life on a profound level. He invited Rafiki to stay, to share his wisdom. It was a hesitant acceptance. Rafiki was used to being an outsider, a wanderer, but in the king's earnest eyes, he saw the home he'd been searching for. He didn't immediately become the royal musi. That trust was earned. He spent his days observing, listening, and offering quiet counsel. He showed the lions how a certain berry could purify water, and how the phases of the moon affected the hunting grounds. He taught them that true strength wasn't just in a roar, but in understanding one's place within the great whole. The lions, in turn, offered him protection and a sense of belonging. He found a special kinship with the lionesses, particularly a sharp-witted lioness named Uru, Ahadi's future queen. They would spend hours talking, Uru sharing the politics of the Pride, and Rafiki sharing the secrets of the stars. It was Uru who first started calling him the king's most trusted advisor. The day that solidified his role came during a great drought. The waterhole was drying up, and tensions were running high. The herds were threatening to leave, which would mean starvation for the Pride. While the lions despaired, Rafiki remembered stories from his youth, tales of underground rivers that flowed even when the surface was barren. He followed the whispers of the wind and the subtle dips in the terrain, leading a skeptical King Ahadi on a long trek far beyond the usual borders of the Pride lands. Using his staff, he tapped the ground, listening for a hollow echo. Finally, he pointed to a spot beneath a cluster of ancient baobab trees. "Dig here," he instructed. The lions dug, and after hours of toil, fresh, clean water bubbled to the surface, creating a new spring and saving the Pride lands. From that day on, he was no longer just Rafiki, the wandering healer. He was Rafiki, the royal musi, the keeper of wisdom for the kings of Pride Rock. His connection to the royal family deepened with the birth of Mufasa and Taka. He was there when they were born, the first to hold them up to the light. He saw the brightness in Mufasa's eyes and the shadow that flickered in Taka's. He painted their likenesses on the walls of his baobab tree home, a tradition he started to chronicle the history of the pride. He didn't just paint images. He infused them with the essence of the moment, using berry juices and colored clays, a practice that seemed almost magical to the other animals. It was his way of honoring the past and guiding the future. He watched the two brothers grow, trying to gently steer Taka away from his jealousy. But some paths, he learned, must be walked alone. When Mufasa became king, Rafiki's role became even more crucial. He was not just an advisor, but a confidant, a spiritual guide, and a dear friend. They would often sit atop Pride Rock, watching the sunrise, Mufasa sharing his fears and hopes for his kingdom and his son, Simba. It was Rafiki who explained the concept of the great kings of the past living on in the stars, a belief rooted in his own ancestral traditions. He saw the same bright spirit in Simba that he had seen in Mufasa. The presentation of Simba was more than a ceremony. It was a culmination of Rafiki's entire journey. Holding the future king aloft for all the kingdom to see, he wasn't just presenting an heir. He was reaffirming his own purpose, his vow to protect the circle of life and the family that had finally given him a home. The tragedy of Mufasa's death and Simba's disappearance shattered him. It was the deepest failure he had ever felt. He retreated into his tree, his paintings a constant painful reminder of what was lost. The Pride lands withered under Scar's rule, and for a time Rafiki's hope withered too. He felt the balance he had worked so hard to maintain crumble into dust. He questioned his purpose, his wisdom, everything. He was once again the lone mandrill, lost and without a path. His powers seemed to fade as his connection to the vibrant life of the Pride lands was severed by despair. The wind no longer carried messages, only sighs of sorrow. But the circle of life is resilient. One day, a flurry of milkweed fluff, carried on a gust of wind from a distant land, drifted past his nose. He caught it, and as he examined the seeds and pollen clinging to it, a jolt went through him. It was a scent he recognized, a sign he had almost forgotten how to read. Hope, faint but persistent, stirred within him. The wind was speaking to him again. It carried the scent of a lion, a familiar lion. Simba. He was alive. The revelation was like the sun breaking through the darkest storm clouds. His laughter, wild and joyous, echoed through the desolate Pride lands for the first time in years. His purpose was renewed. He wasn't just a historian or a healer. He was a catalyst. He knew what he had to do. His journey to find Simba was a reversal of his first journey to the Pride lands. This time, he wasn't searching for a home. He was fighting to restore one. He found Simba in a jungle paradise, living a life of no worries, a life that denied his destiny. The famous bonk on the head with his staff wasn't an act of random silliness. It was a physical manifestation of a spiritual wake-up call. The past can hurt, he told Simba, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it. It was the most important lesson he had ever taught, a lesson born from his own life of wandering, loss, and discovery. He guided Simba to the reflecting pool, not to show him a ghost, but to show him that Mufasa and the king he was meant to be lived on within him. This was the pinnacle of Rafiki's wisdom. Understanding that our ancestors and our past are not chains that bind us, but roots that give us strength. His journey had come full circle, from a lost orphan to the guide who would lead a lost king home, ensuring the great circle of life would continue, unbroken. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to follow for more stories from the Pride lands.